I just put it on because I know I look good in it, so stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
Welcome back to More Girls Next Door. Today's recap is from Season 2, Episode 14 of The Girls Next Door, called Rabbit Season, which aired November 4th, 2006. And if you've ever wondered what happens when you combine a beauty pageant, a job interview, a reality show, several hundred bikini-clad women, a former girlfriend convention, and one very stubborn Holly Madison determined to wear an outfit she's already been told not to wear? Well, you're about to find out. But before we start handing out bunny tails and judging eye contact skills, it's time to crack open the Y2K vault. November 2006. The hottest holiday gift in America wasn't a toy. It wasn't a video game, and it wasn't even a phone. It was a Nintendo Wii, which launched just 2 weeks after this episode. Parents were preparing to fistfight strangers in parking lots. Retail employees were bracing for impact. News stations were running segments about grown adults camping outside electronics stores. Nobody could quite believe that a tiny white box with graphics that looked suspiciously last generation was about to become the must-have item of the holiday season. But Nintendo had discovered something revolutionary. People didn't want to play video games anymore. They wanted to physically embarrass themselves while playing video games. Living rooms across America suddenly became amateur bowling alleys. Grandmothers were challenging grandchildren to tennis matches. Television sets everywhere were living in fear of being struck by rogue Wii remotes launched across the room during an overly enthusiastic round of baseball. Somewhere at that very moment, a family was already arguing over whose Me character looked the most accurate. And while America was preparing to spend Thanksgiving accidentally throwing virtual bowling balls into virtual gutters, nearly 300 women were gathering at the Playboy Mansion, hoping to land one of the most coveted jobs in the Playboy universe. So kick off your candies, hang up your trucker hat, and silence your sidekicks. Let's head to the mansion.
I think it's a huge deal that the first Playboy Club in over 15 years is opening up in Vegas at the Palms.
I am so very excited about this Playboy Club.
And I thought if they did a casting at the Playboy Mansion, that would get a great turnout of girls who are serious about wanting to be a bunny.
The episode opens with a flashback to Season 1, when Holly modeled Roberto Cavalli's redesigned bunny costume on a Las Vegas runway. That turns out not to be random nostalgia. The new Playboy Club at the Palms Casino in Las Vegas is preparing to open, and Playboy is holding bunny auditions at the mansion itself. Vintage footage runs on the screen. A young Hugh Hefner appears alongside the very first Playboy bunny costume. The contrast is shocking. The original suit is still revealing by normal human standards, but compared to the Roberto Cavalli version Holly modeled, it practically looks prepared to attend church. It's amazing how much the costume evolved over the decades, considering there was never much fabric to work with. The montage continues through decades of Playboy Club history while Holly explains the significance of the bunnies. The first club opened in Chicago in the 1960s. Women competed for positions ranging from cocktail bunny to concierge bunny. And while modern audiences sometimes remember Playboy clubs as restaurants with attractive waitresses, Playboy itself always tried to market the role as something more specialized, something exclusive, something aspirational. The clubs eventually disappeared in the 1980s before Playboy attempted a revival in 2006. Which brings us to the mansion office. Holly and Bridget learn they'll be serving as judges during the auditions. Playboy executive Richard explains that hundreds of candidates are expected to attend, and the operation requires military-level planning. Holly, however, has a much more pressing concern. She wants to wear a custom hot pink bunny costume she had made for herself.
Whoa! Can I wear a bunny costume?
I have this really cool new bunny costume. It's VIP style, it's hot pink, and I've had it for almost a year, have not had a chance to wear it, and I thought, the bunny search, that's perfect.
I have to think about that because that might be intimidating to the girls. But let me see.
That is a really sweet thing to say.
Well, it's true.
Richard gently explains that appearing in a bunny costume might intimidate the applicants. Holly looks devastated, then immediately brightens and she replies, "That's a really sweet thing to say." Translation: I heard the compliment. I'm choosing to ignore the rejection. Next, she goes straight to Hef, because if your dad says no, maybe mom will say yes, or vice versa. Hef explains what he wants in a bunny. Beautiful, personable, playmate-like. All very standard. Then Holly reveals the real reason she came. "I wish I could wear my bunny costume." Hef laughs. "You can't be a bunny and a bunny judge." That's reasonable, logical. Case closed. Except Holly is not accepting the verdict. "I think a bunny would make the best bunny judge." At this point, she's basically filing an appeal. Finally, Hef puts his foot down. "I think you should just wear it tonight and we'll have a good old time." Denied. Motion dismissed. Court adjourned. The next day arrives. Holly sits at the dining table sketching a bunny girl while wearing a chic, white, mod-inspired dress and matching beret, a look she repeated on Girls Next Level for the recap of this very episode. Bridget joins her in a simple short black spaghetti strap dress. Then we meet Karen, a human resources representative from the Palms Resort, and she explains the judging criteria: appearance, communication skills, personality, body language, eye contact, professionalism, willingness to relocate. And finally, Kendra arrives late, wearing cutoff shorts, a tank top, and dark sunglasses. She drags her feet as she approaches, moving with all the energy of someone in the recovery phase of a very successful night out, involving tequila and a stripper pole, if you know what I mean.
What's up?
Hi, Kendra. I'm Karen.
Hey, Karen.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
I'm only gonna grade the girls on their asses, so they have to turn around. Watch, I swear. I will.
You know, how they walk and how they...
I mean, the girl has to look good in the back to be a bunny, right? To show off the tail, right?
Yeah, the whole image is what we're looking for, your personality.
Ass is my part.
What up, Karen? Nice to meet you. I'm only going to grade girls on their asses. The human resources director freezes. She looks like she's trying to calculate whether that comment violates one policy or several. Holly once again mentions her bunny costume. Bridget asks why she can't wear it. Hef vetoed it. Well, then you're just SOL. Bridget doesn't always deliver one-liners, but when she does, they're devastating. Holly sits quietly for a moment, like a child staring through the toy store window. Then she casually announces, "I'm gonna go change." And off she goes. The music switches to When Johnny Comes Marching Home as Holly transforms herself into a bunny anyway. And she looks fantastic. The custom suit is in a gorgeous bright magenta hue, and Holly wears matching ears and pumps. Bridget assists her and pins on her tail, and Holly straightens her bow tie. With her cosmetically enhanced figure, she's already busting out. So I remember well watching this for the first time in total shock as Holly then stuffs 2 pairs of tube socks into each cup of her outfit. The additional padding is overkill, if you ask me. In her interview, she delivers one of the great Holly Madison lines. "I just put it on because I know I look good in it. So put that in your pipe and smoke it." Respect. If you're going to stage a rebellion, commit. Holly arrives at the auditions where dozens of Playboy models and bunny representatives are already wearing official costumes. And yes, I know what you're thinking. If everybody else is dressed like a bunny, why can't Holly? Because Holly is technically a judge, and Playboy was attempting to maintain professional boundaries. A woman asks Holly if she's modeling one of the new official designs, and Holly has to admit she's essentially gone rogue. Not only is this not an approved bunny costume, but she's currently ignoring direct instructions from both Richard and Hef, which for Holly is surprisingly rebellious behavior. Next, we meet Chris, also from the Palms Human Resources Department, who will be serving alongside the girls as one of the judges throughout the auditions. And Chris immediately finds himself in what has to be one of the strangest HR assignments ever created. Then Holly realizes she's forgotten an important detail, her bunny badge, so she heads back towards the mansion to retrieve it. And that's when she runs into, dun dun dun, Hef, the enforcer, the one person most likely to have opinions about her unauthorized costume.
I thought Hef was going to be upset that I snuck and put the bunny costume on behind his back, but he was just more concerned about how it fit.
Now, this costume, it isn't a very good fit.
I think what Hef doesn't know is I just put too many tube socks in my costume.
Now, interestingly, Hef doesn't seem particularly upset that Holly ignored his instructions and wore it anyway. Instead, he immediately begins critiquing the outfit itself. Because if there's one thing we've learned about Hef, it's that he was an absolute stickler for Playboy details. The ears, the fit, the proportions, the authenticity. To him, the bunny costume wasn't just a costume. It was practically a corporate logo. And apparently this particular version wasn't quite measuring up. He's concerned with the fit and the fall of the fabric. But once he learns the costume isn't meant to be an official Playboy design, he seems satisfied. Crisis averted. Holly, victorious once again, sashays back to the auditions in full bunny attire, badge attached, and tube socks presumably still intact. In commentary, Holly suggests Hef's real issue may have been that she'd stuffed so many tube socks into her bra that the proportions looked slightly ambitious. And she's probably not wrong. Keith Hefner arrives, Hugh Hefner's brother, and arguably one of the most important figures in Playboy Club history.
Hef's brother Keith was in charge of making the Playboy bunny more than just a waitress, serving someone at the Playboy Club more of a performance, and he taught the girls the famous bunny dip.
That's absolutely correct.
And how exactly to interact with your customers so that they were having an experience and not just a dinner. The training was really rigorous, much more so than any other cocktail waitress ever.
Okay, now who's going to try a real high carry?
Keith helped transform the role of bunny from waitress into performance artist. He developed many of the standards, training procedures, and presentation techniques that became synonymous with the brand. The famous bunny dip, the way drinks were served, how bunnies interacted with guests, how they carried themselves. The idea wasn't merely serving food and cocktails. The idea was creating an experience. Watching more archival footage, you realize how seriously Keith took all of it. For him, it wasn't just a gimmick. It was a profession, a craft, a performance. He demonstrates the bunny dip with Holly and treats the maneuver of serving cocktails with the gravity of a world champion ballroom dancer. And then auditions begin.
I would not make a good bunny, and I would not even try. First of all, I hate heels, and you can't sit down in that bunny costume, and I need to sit down. And you can't eat or drink in that. Bad.
Bunnies are not supposed to sit down in bunny costume. They can only perch on something, which is kind of leaning. And I was very proud of myself because I was out there for 4 hours, and I did really well.
The judges sit beneath a patio umbrella. Well, most of them sit. because Holly has overlooked one tiny detail. Bunnies aren't allowed to sit down. Official Playboy Bunny rules required them to perch. So while everyone else settles comfortably into chairs, Holly spends the day awkwardly balancing herself on the edge of one. A rebellion always has consequences. Contestants begin filing through. Hundreds of women, every age, every background, every look. Some of the candidates are actual playmates, like Kiana Chase, Miss July 2005. Holly says she's looking for a fresh, wholesome girl to represent Playboy and the bunny costume. Bridget says she's focusing on personality and attitude. Kendra continues operating entirely within her own judging rubric. Turn around, girl. I like girls that fill out the suit.
Yeah, you're going to talk to the girls next.
What I was looking for in a potential bunny was somebody who was really pretty in a fresh, wholesome girl next door way.
I wasn't looking for a pretty face or a great body. I was looking for a girl who had the right personality and the right attitude.
All right, we got to see your butt. I was looking for certain types of girls. I mean, I like girls that fill out the suit. Turn around, girl. See that? Yeah.
Then Kendra spots playmate Kiana in the crowd and begins shouting across the lawn. That's my favorite playmate. She doesn't even need to show up. She's already got it. Kendra immediately declares her hired before the interview even begins. Apparently, Kendra believes she is simultaneously a judge, executive producer, and Supreme Court justice. And honestly, nobody in her life had done much to challenge that belief. One thing the episode doesn't mention is that Kiana was ultimately selected, but later declined the position because relocating to Las Vegas wasn't the right fit, which honestly seems like an important consideration when moving your entire life to another state. A slender chocolate beauty with long dark hair and an animal print bikini approaches the table next. Then a redhead in a fiery swimsuit. Then a petite tan blonde in green with alluring eyes. And then comes a familiar face, a thin blonde girl with synthetic extensions and a hot pink string bikini. It's Crystal Camden, Hef's ex-girlfriend who lives at the bunny house and is a good friend of Bridget. She approaches the table looking hopeful. She says it's a dream of hers to become a bunny, and it's genuinely sweet watching Bridget root for her. Then Bridget says something that becomes controversial years later. She admits she could tell simply by looking across the lawn that some women didn't fit the bunny prototype.
I am surprised at some people who think they have what it takes to be a bunny, and just from across the lawn, you can tell that is not a bunny right there. I say no.
Years later, on Girls Next Level, Bridget would argue that editing made her appear harsher than intended. But this is one of those moments where I think modern audiences sometimes forget the context. These women were literally judging a beauty competition, evaluating whether applicants fit a highly specific corporate image was the entire assignment. You can argue the standard itself. You can criticize Playboy's definition of beauty. But Bridget wasn't auditioning candidates for accounting positions. She was judging bunny auditions. Then everything changes. The atmosphere suddenly gets weird. Holly spots someone in the crowd of candidates and whispers to the table of judges, "I see a Bentley twin."
Yeah, I'll go in there. Yeah.
I see a Bentley twin.
Who?
A Bentley twin. One girl who tried out is named Mandy Bentley, and she used to date Hef and was on the cover of the magazine at one point. I was telling everybody, I don't want to interview her. Somebody else interview her because I didn't want any weird bias or anything.
We know you.
We just felt awkward. We felt like we couldn't really judge her fairly.
You're interested in cocktailing only or dealer?
Standing alone in a soft peach sundress, fanning herself with a paper application, is Mandy Bentley. Former girlfriend, former playmate, former mansion resident, and one of Hef's most significant exes. Mandy dated Hef in the late 1990s during the period immediately preceding the Seven Girlfriend era. She was heavily involved in Playboy and remained connected to the brand long after the relationship ended, which means she arrives carrying a lot of history that immediately makes everyone uncomfortable. Holly doesn't want to judge her. Chris handles most of the interview, but Bridget remains engaged. One answer in particular stands out. Mandy says she'd relocate if the money was right. And Bridget looks like she's just witnessed an act of Playboy heresy. But be so for real, Bridget. That's called being an adult. If someone asks you to move states for a job, compensation should absolutely be part of the conversation. That's not greed. That's rent. That's groceries. That's reality. After Mandy leaves, Chris feels she acted like she already had the job. And Holly and Bridget agree. Meanwhile, though, Kendra, blissfully unaware of years of mansion politics, thinks Mandy did perfectly fine. And I love moments like this, because Kendra occasionally functions as an accidental control group. She doesn't know the history, she doesn't know the gossip. She's evaluating only what she sees. Eventually, Holly finally gives up. The bunny costume comes off, a tank top and softy shorts replace it. The rebellion is over.
Out of close to 300 girls, there were 20 girls that got picked to come back for a second interview with Hef and George Maloof, who were going to pick the final girls. There were some girls that we crossed out immediately that made it to the final round.
Out of nearly 300 candidates, only a small group advances to the final round, where they will be interviewed by Hef alongside Palm's owner, George Maloof. Mandy makes it through. Crystal makes it through. The competition intensifies. One standout contestant is Amoy Christian, a beautiful young black woman from New York who becomes emotional discussing her dream of moving west and creating a better future. She begins tearing up. Aww, Hef croons.
Hello there.
Amoy Christian. God, I'm so nervous. I flew in from New York, and this is my dream to come out to the West Coast. I flew in here with no money, hoping that this is for me.
You're only here with friends.
One of the girls got really emotional, and she started crying.
It's okay. It's okay. All right?
But tears work with Hef, so I think that actually put her in a good light.
Very nice to meet you. Nice meeting you, too. Oh, you guys are also beautiful.
Holly immediately observes, tears work with Hef. And whether she's joking or not, the line lands because after 2 seasons, we've all noticed the same thing. Hef liked feeling needed. Hef liked helping. He liked playing benefactor. Sometimes emotion was persuasive currency.
This is a great honor, and it needs to be the right girls.
Finally, the winners are announced. Among them, Kiana Chase, Mandy Bentley, and Amoy Christian. The camera cuts between celebration and disappointment, and nowhere is that disappointment more visible than on Crystal Camden's face. It's genuinely heartbreaking, because unlike many contestants, Crystal wasn't chasing a fantasy. She'd already lived inside the Playboy world. She understood exactly what she was trying to achieve, and she still didn't get it. The episode ends quietly. Crystal retreats to Bridget's room. Bridget comforts her. And in one of the more sincere moments of the season, compares Crystal's disappointment to her own failed quest to become a playmate. Then Bridget asks the most Bridget question. Want to get Sprinkles cupcakes? Sure. And off they go in Bridget's red Porsche. Because sometimes the only cure for rejection is frosting. So what is Rabbit season really about? On the surface, it's a casting special, a beauty competition, a giant job interview in bikinis. But underneath that, it's actually an episode about access, about who gets invited into the Playboy dream and who gets left standing outside the gates. Nearly 300 women arrive believing this opportunity could change their lives. Most leave disappointed. And that's always been the hidden engine behind Playboy: scarcity. The promise that a very small number of people will be chosen. The possibility that maybe, just maybe, you'll be one of them. It's also one of the clearest examples of Holly's complicated relationship with Playboy. Nobody loves the bunny legacy more than Holly. Nobody understands its history more than Holly. And nobody spends this entire episode fighting harder to participate in it. Yet despite being the most famous bunny on the property, she still can't quite get permission to wear the costume she wants. Because even at the height of her influence, there were still limits to how much authority Holly actually had. And next time, we'll close out Season 2 with our finale episode as we head to Las Vegas for the grand opening of the new Playboy Club. Producing these episodes is truly a labor of love, and as we approach the end of Season 2, I'm starting to ask the same question every podcaster asks. Is anybody actually out there? So if you'd like us to continue into Season 3, let me know. Subscribe, leave a review, send me a message through the website moregirlsnextdoor.com. Because the more I hear from you, the easier it is to justify the task of producing this podcast. Until then, remember, sometimes you're selected, sometimes you're rejected, and sometimes you end up eating cupcakes in a Porsche while pretending you're totally fine. I love you guys. I appreciate every one of you for listening, and I can't wait to see you next time.
On the bricks.